How to trade E-mini S&P futures part 2. So in part 1 we did this video here and we left off at the end talking about the trade details about buying one futures contract. And in this video we walked through an actual trade. Our buy and sell alerts, and we talked about how much money we made for each tick. Each tick is basically each dollar tick is worth 50 points, $50. So if we trade 10 points in ES, then that's equivalent to, if we do 10 points, let's say from 260 to 250, then that's $50 per point times 10, that's $500. Now in this part 2, we're going to, also we listed links for the E-mini futures, so you can check out this link for a chart of the S&P 500 futures. So this is what it looks like. Going back here, now in terms of margin, right? So this is the screen that I had up. When you buy an E-mini S&P 500 futures, you're controlling $100,000 worth of the S&P for the cost of $2 commission. Now, if you look at other commissions in other sites, when you buy stock, it's like $7, $14.95, even $19.95. Here it's $2 to get control of $100,000 worth of S&P. So how much is that going to cost you? Well, that's going to cost you, in terms of margin, $2,800. Right? So you're going to have $2,800 intraday to be able to buy one futures contract. If you want to buy two futures contracts, you're going to have at least $5,600. That's twice as much. And these details, this is using Interactive Brokers, but it's basically the same no matter what platform you're using. So if you're buying one futures contract, it eats up $2,800 of margin in your account. You can verify this, right? So you can verify this. If you go down here, you go into, like, let's say we go into the Interactive Brokers website and we go into trading, products, and margin. So let's go to that website. So you go into trading, products, and margin, and then you go to futures, and then there's a lot of, this page has a lot of stuff, right? So you do Control F on your keyboard and you search, right? So you search for E-mini, and the one we want is E-mini S&P 500, right? So that's this one. And notice this one, this number right here, 2812.5. What does that correspond to? Well, this corresponds to, this entire column is intraday initial. That's the intraday initial margin that it takes to initiate initially your E-mini futures contract. So that 2812 corresponds with this 2813. All right, so that's how much margin it takes in your account for one futures contract. If you have a $10,000 account, you can trade up to probably 3 contracts. No, because 4 would go over. So you can do up to 3 intraday. Now, that's intraday. You also have overnight. So overnight is this column over here, and that would be twice as much, right? So instead of 2812, you need 5625. So that's how much margin it requires, 5600 for one futures contract overnight. So just going through this again, this is a screenshot of what I just told you about. Inside this column, you have 2812. Overnight, it costs this much. So when people ask about like return on capital, if you buy one futures contract and you make like $500, like 10 ES points, well, $500 how much did you risk? Well, you basically risked, $5,600 of margin in your account. So that's in a way almost like a 10% return. That's one way to look at it. Of course, that one futures contract controls $100,000 worth of the S&P, right? So that $100,000 worth of the S&P went up by, X amount. Well, just remember that it costs you $5,000 to control how much? To control $100,000 worth of S&P, right? So if you do like 100 divided by 5, that's like 25. It's like roughly 20 to 25 times leverage. That's basically what we're talking about. Each dollar that you put up, you get to control 25 times as much of the S&P, right? So that's what it means to have leverage. Of course, leverage works against you as well. If you control $100,000 worth of S&P, and that one futures contract, that S&P goes down 1% to 99,000, well, you just lost $1,000. So on $5,000, you just lost $1,000. So that's like you lost like 20%. All right, so that's what it means to have leverage and to have margin with these E-minis. So this just reiterates what I was just talking about, how that number matches the number on the Interactive Brokers website, as well as the CME Globex details. You can go on the CME website to confirm that's how much you get. But in order to trade E-mini futures, you're also going to have account permissions. Now, this is slightly different for each brokerage platform, but as an example, in Interactive Brokers, if you log into your account management and then you go onto your manage account, that's here, trade configuration, and then permissions, you're going to have this screen, and you want to make sure that under United States, not only do you have stocks checked off if you want to trade stocks, but you want options and futures, right? So you want this check mark as well as this check mark. Now this one you can also do just in case, but these two are the ones we definitely recommend. So that's basically all you need to trade futures. You have to have, number one, permissions, and it's a little bit different on each platform. Number two, you want to understand how much money it takes, how much margin it eats up in your account to trade one margin. And we talked about how it eats up 5,625 in margin. And you want to know how much it controls. It controls basically $100,000 worth of S&P. Now, of course, when the S&P right now, the S&P 500 is above 2,100, and so that means this number is fairly high. A couple years ago, this number was closer to like 85,000, but it doesn't matter. It's roughly around that range, 80, 90, $100,000 worth of S&P for one futures contract. And in terms of commissions, it's very cheap. This is the most economical way of controlling leverage. For $2 at the price of $5,600, you get to control $104,000 worth of the S&P. So that's basically leverage. And of course, when you want to actually trade and trade correctly, you want to follow our signals where we alert entry and exit. As an example, this is one trade that we did. Encourage you to watch part 1 if you haven't already. That's it for now. To learn more about how we make $1,000 every single week using options and futures, visit us at www.lifestyletrading101.com. See you guys next time.